It was the first Sunday of September when Reverend Thomas Cole arrived in Harlan's Creek. The church is small, white clapboard, a single room, maybe 40 pews, the kind of church that has been standing in a small American town since before anyone alive can remember. Thomas has been assigned here after the previous pastor retired, and he arrives on a Saturday evening, walks through the building, runs his hand along the old wood, feels the particular quiet of a space that has been prayed in for a very long time. Sunday morning, 31 people come through the door. Thomas stands at the front and looks out at them and feels what he always feels on the first Sunday in a new place. The slight awkwardness of being a stranger in a room that has its own history. He gives his sermon. He shakes hands afterward. People introduce themselves. He tries to hold the names. The next Sunday, 30 people come. Thomas notices, vaguely, that the faces are not quite the same as last week. He tells himself he is still learning them. He makes a point of greeting everyone by name as they leave. Some of the names he does not recognize from the week before. The third Sunday, he starts writing them down. He keeps a small notebook in his jacket pocket. He has always done this, a habit from seminary. After the service in the vestry, he writes every name he can remember from the pew, 28 names. He compares them to the list from the week before. 11 of them are new. He stares at the list for a while. 11 new congregants in 1 week is unusual for a town this size. He mentions it to Mary Aldrich, who has been the church secretary for 30 years and who knows everything about the town that can be known. She smiles and tells him the congregation has always been devoted. She does not elaborate. The fourth Sunday, Thomas brings the notebook to the service and takes notes during the hymns, writing down faces and names as discreetly as he can. Afterward, he sits in the vestry and adds to his list. 43 names now, across 3 weeks. Never more than 30 in the room at once. He starts asking around town. He knows most small towns have a core of regular churchgoers. 100, maybe 150 people who rotate through depending on the week, on work schedules, on family obligations. This is normal. But Harlan's Creek has a population of around 600. He has been to the grocery store, the diner, the hardware store. He knows most of the faces by now. Some of the faces in his notebook he has never seen anywhere else. Not at the grocery store, not at the diner, not walking on Main Street, not at the school pickup, not anywhere in the town that he can find. Only at Sunday service. Only for 1 hour, 1 morning a week, and then gone. By the 6th Sunday, his list has 112 names. He cross-references them with the town records Mary keeps in the church office. Baptism records, marriage records, funeral records going back to the 1800s. He sits at the old wooden desk in the back office on a Monday morning with the records spread out in front of him and works through his list name by name. He finds most of them. He finds them quickly, efficiently, the way he does research, cross-referencing names against dates, building a picture. The work absorbs him the way research always absorbs him, and for the first hour, he is not thinking about what he might find, just following the thread. Then he finds Harold Birch. The records are wrong. Harold Birch, confirmed in 1987, married 1991. Thomas has Harold's address, has driven past his house. Harold came to the service on the 3rd Sunday. Harold is in the records as a living member of the congregation. The funeral record for Harold Birch is dated March 2003. Thomas checks again, looks at the name, the dates, the handwriting. It is Harold Birch, Same middle name, same address, same everything. Died March 14th, 2003. Cause of death listed in the notes as cardiac failure. Thomas was sitting in the front pew when Harold Birch shook his hand and said he hoped Thomas would be happy in Harlan's Creek. He works through the rest of the list. By the time he is done, 67 of the 112 names on his list have funeral records in the church files. Dates ranging from 1952 to 2019. Men and women who, according to the records in front of him, have been dead for years, who have been coming to Sunday service anyway. Thomas sits in the back office for a long time without moving. He thinks about the quiet in the church when he first walked through it on that Saturday evening, the particular quality of it, the feeling of a space that has been prayed in for a very long time. He thinks about what Mary Aldrich said. The congregation has always been devoted. He thinks about the way certain faces look in the light that comes through the old stained glass on a Sunday morning. A flatness to the light, a stillness that he had attributed to the peace of the service, to the particular atmosphere of old wood and familiar hymns. He sits with this for 2 days. He does not call the diocese. He does not call anyone. He is not sure what he would say. He is not sure what category of problem this is, what office handles it, who the right person to tell would be. He keeps going back to the records and checking the names and the dates and the handwriting, looking for the error that would make this make sense. There is no error. On the 7th Sunday, he stands at the front of the church and looks out at 30 faces. He knows now which ones are in the records as living. He knows which ones are not. He gives his sermon. He keeps his voice even. He looks at the faces looking back at him, and he understands, for the first time, what it means that this church has been full every Sunday for 150 years in a town that has never grown large enough to fill it. They have never left. Not one of them. After the service, he shakes hands at the door. Harold Birch is the last one out. He shakes Thomas's hand the same way he did the first time. Firm, warm, a man glad to see his pastor. He says, "We're glad you're staying." Then he walks down the path and turns onto the road that leads back through town. Thomas watches him go. He does not ask where Harold goes when he gets home. He is not sure he wants to know. How did this story hit you? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe to Hollow Fears to unlock the next file. It was a Tuesday in October when the university cleared out the basement of Harwick Hall. The maintenance crew forces open a door at the end of the corridor, painted shut, probably for decades, and finds a room they were not expecting. Shelves floor to ceiling. Books, hundreds of them, the kind of old that has weight to it, that changes the smell of a room the moment you open the door. The spines are dark and uneven in a way that cloth and leather bindings are not. One of the crew touches a cover, pulls his hand back, doesn't say why. The archivist comes. The archivist calls a specialist. The specialist puts on gloves and opens one book and is quiet for a long time. He makes some calls. Marcus Hale drives up from Providence the same week. He has been collecting rare books for 22 years, and he has learned not to ask everything he could ask about where certain things come from. He looks at 9 of the books, makes his offer, loads them into acid-free boxes in the back of his car. He feels good on the drive home. He always feels good when he finds something. In his workroom that evening, he opens the first book, blank pages, He opens the second. Blank. The third. The fourth. All 9. Not a mark on any of them. He sits with the disappointment for a moment. The particular deflation of an acquisition that turns out to be less than it seemed. Old blank journals. Unusual bindings. Yes, but empty. He photographs the covers, notes the materials, begins the catalog. He locks the room and goes to bed. In the morning, he goes back to check the humidity readings. He opens the first book to note the page condition. His name is on the first page. His full name, his date of birth, the address of the house he grew up in on Elmwood Avenue in Cincinnati. Below that, his mother's name, his father's name, the name of the dog they had when he was 7. None of this is in any public record. None of it is searchable. He has not spoken his mother's maiden name aloud in years. He closes the book. He opens it again. The writing is still there. He sits down. He is a methodical man. He has built his career on not reacting before he understands something. He makes himself look at what is in front of him and think about how it got there. He thinks for several minutes. He cannot account for it. He opens the second book. There is a scene, long, detailed, written in clean prose, describing a morning from his childhood, a fight between his parents in the kitchen. The exact words said, the particular light through the window above the sink, the feeling of standing in the hallway listening, 8 years old, not knowing whether to go in or stay where he was. He has never told anyone about that morning. It is not the kind of memory you describe to people. It lives in a sealed room inside him that he does not open. Someone has been inside it. Someone has written it down. He reads to the end of the page. The scene ends mid-moment, the way a chapter ends when there is more to come. He checks the third book, his college years, in sequence. The fourth, his first marriage, his divorce, the specific texture of those years in a way that no biographer could have reconstructed, because he has never spoken about any of it honestly to anyone. He pulls the 9th book from the shelf. His hands are not quite steady when he opens it. The last chapter is dated 6 weeks from now. He reads the first paragraph, then the second. He gets halfway through the third paragraph and stops. He closes the book. He puts it back on the shelf and sits in the climate-controlled room with his hands in his lap and the silence around him, and he does not move for a long time. He is not a man who panics. He has handled difficult things before. He talks himself through what he is feeling, labels it, tries to put it in a manageable place. He cannot put this in a manageable place. After a while, he gets up and goes to his car and starts driving. He passes through Providence without stopping. He crosses into Connecticut. He drives until the road is dark and empty, and he is far enough from the house on Benefit Street that he can breathe normally. He pulls into a rest stop and sits. He thinks about the last chapter. The details in the other books had been exactly right. Not approximately right. Not close, but precise in a way that left no room for coincidence. If those chapters were accurate, then the last one is accurate too. The date at the top of the page was 6 weeks from now. He thinks about going back for the books, about taking them somewhere far away, destroying them, making sure no one else reads what is in the 9th one. He thinks about this for a long time in the rest stop parking lot in Connecticut. Then he thinks about the fact that the books were blank when he bought them, that whatever is written in them appeared after he brought them home, that the books did not follow him here. He thinks, if I go back, I finish the chapter. He doesn't go back. 3 weeks later, his wife calls a colleague of his, asking if Marcus has been in touch. He hasn't come home. His phone goes to voicemail. Nothing has been taken from their accounts. The colleague, his name is Daniel, he has known Marcus for 11 years, drives over on a Saturday morning. He lets himself in with the spare key. He walks through the rooms calling Marcus's name, even though he already knows there will be no answer. The house feels the way houses feel when the person who lives in them has been gone for a while. Not abandoned, just waiting. The colleague goes to the house. He walks through the rooms. The climate-controlled room at the back is locked. He finds the key on Marcus's desk and opens the door. 9 books on the shelf. He opens the first one. Blank pages. He checks the others. All blank. He doesn't know what he is looking at. He locks the room and calls Marcus's wife and tells her he found nothing unusual. The books sit in the dark for 2 more weeks. When Daniel comes back 2 weeks later, he tells himself he is checking on the house for Marcus's wife. That is the reason he gives himself. The reason he actually comes back, the one he doesn't say aloud, is that he has been thinking about those 9 books on the shelf since the day he locked the room. He has been thinking about them more than he wants to admit. He opens the first book again. The writing has returned, but it is not Marcus's name on the first page. It is his. How did this story hit you? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe to Hollow Fears to unlock the next file. We are a brand new channel, so we really need your support. Stick around and make sure to subscribe. It was March 4th at the Krenner Research Station, 70 miles from the nearest road, on the north slope of Alaska. The station is small enough that you can hear everything: the hum of the generator, the wind against the walls, the sound of someone's boots in the corridor at 3 a.m. 6 people have been living inside it since November, and by now they know each other's footsteps, know each other's sleep schedules, know exactly how many days are left until the resupply flight in April. Sarah goes to make coffee and finds the canister empty. She stands at the cabinet with the empty canister in her hands, and her first thought is that someone has been careless with rationing. Her second thought is that this is impossible. She did the inventory herself 2 weeks ago. There were 2 full canisters left. She checks behind the canister. Empty space. She checks the date on the label. Received December 1st. Rated for 6 months, 6 people. She puts the canister down on the counter and stands very still. Then she goes to find Dmitri. Dmitri is at his desk running pressure measurements when Sarah comes in and sets the empty canister in front of him without saying anything. He looks at it. He looks at her face. He pulls up the weather logs. The blizzard started December 3rd. It is March 4th. He prints the log and holds it, and the room gets very quiet. Sarah watches him check the numbers twice, then a third time. The way he checks things when he already knows the answer and is hoping he's wrong. He isn't wrong. They gather everyone in the common room. 6 people around the table, the weather log in the center. Sarah starts. She tells them what she found in the cabinet. Dmitri puts the printout on the table. Then they go through what they remember. Tuesday, the storm started. They made soup. Yuki played chess with Pavel. Sarah worked on her core samples until late. Wednesday, still storming. Thursday, this morning, 3 days. That's all any of them have. Yuki says it first, says it quietly, not looking at anyone, that she can feel the 3 days in her body, that her muscles don't feel like she's been sitting inside for 3 months, that she is not hungry the way a person is hungry, after 3 months of reduced rations. But the food is gone. They check everything: the water recycler, the generator logs, the lab computers. 3 months of fuel, 3 months of data, terabytes of readings and notes that fill up the server in neat dated folders, all of it in their own handwriting, their own notation styles, their own voices. Yuki opens her own files from January. She reads through 2 weeks of notes she apparently wrote about ice core samples she apparently extracted from a drill site she apparently operated alone in the blizzard. The handwriting is hers. The shorthand is hers. The observations are exactly what she would have written. She reads them the way you read a letter written by someone who knew you very well but is no longer alive. She closes the laptop. Pavel pulls the external camera footage and plays it at high speed. The blizzard for 93 days, white and constant, and moving through it. All 6 of them, regularly, going outside, doing maintenance, checking instruments, functioning completely normally. He watches himself carry equipment between the buildings in a January snowstorm and feels nothing that connects him to the person on the screen. He slows the footage on one sequence from January 14th. He is standing outside, not working, not moving toward anything. Just standing in the blizzard with his back to the camera, facing out into the white. He watches himself stand there for 47 minutes. Then the figure on the screen turns and goes back inside. Pavel watches the footage 3 more times. He tries to feel something that recognizes that moment. Some physical memory, some fragment of sensation, cold, wind, the particular feeling of standing still in a storm. Nothing. He is watching a stranger who has his jacket and his posture and his way of standing. Reyes finds the audio file that night. It is in a folder from February, labeled with a date and nothing else. 22 minutes long. She plays it for all of them, and they sit in the common room and listen to her own voice speaking slowly and carefully, narrating observations in the precise language she uses when she is recording data for the record. For the first 17 minutes, it is technical, clinical, the kind of recording she makes dozens of times a year. Then her voice changes. Not dramatically, just slightly. The way a person's voice changes when they stop performing calmness and start actually feeling it. She says, "We understand now why it doesn't stop." She says, "We have decided not to write this down." Then silence. Then the recording ends. Reyes sits with her hands flat on the table and listens to the silence after her own voice. She does not know what she understood. She does not know what they decided not to write. Whatever it was, they kept that decision. There is nothing in any of their notes from February. No record of whatever they saw or understood or decided. Just a gap. A clean, deliberate absence in 3 months of otherwise meticulous documentation. Chen goes through the CO monitors, the air quality sensors, the psychological stress indicators built into the station systems. Everything normal. Everything functioning within expected ranges for the entire period. They were not impaired. They were here, and they were working. And something happened that none of them can remember, and they chose not to write it down. Outside, the blizzard is still going. The same blizzard. Day 93. Chen checks the forecast models, expected to continue for another 3 weeks. Nobody says anything for a long time. Then Yuki asks the question all of them have been not asking since Dmitri printed the weather log. She asks, "If we were here for 3 months and we don't remember it, what were we doing?" The wind moves through the instruments on the roof. The station makes the same low sound it has been making for 93 days. None of them remember hearing it. How did these 3 stories hit you? Drop a comment below and tell us, what kind of cases do you want to hear next? If you're still here, subscribe to Hollow Fears. New cases every day.